All right, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to our first session of the GIMG interest meeting. We're going to be doing this again tomorrow. So really the only difference is going to be whether or not like the people can ask different questions, we're going to answer different questions. So thank you guys for making it to this one. I know 8 p.m. is not very early. However, we wanted to make sure that it's a time where most of you guys probably either finish class or not in class. So hopefully this is a good time for it still. Just to introduce everyone to GIMG, we are a student managed investment fund at Emory University. We manage two portfolios and part of our investment branch. The two portfolios that we run are our equity portfolio as well as our fixed income portfolio. Both of them are around 150,000 US dollars each. That is part of Emory's and Emory University's endowment directly. And so again, we're kind of helping Emory Investment Management manage a portion of the portfolio. The way that our organization got started was perhaps one of the most successful alumni, who's currently a CIO of BlackRock, donated $100,000 to Emory and said, I want students to run this. And that started in 2011. We're going to go into the history a little later. And so that's kind of how we got started. In addition to our investment activities, we also have our PR branch, which we do a lot of marketing. We do a lot of big kind of projects, especially for our events, because we don't just have a kind of, our focus is not just in terms of our investment branch and our fund. We also do a lot of academies, a lot of activities. One such activity is a financial literacy program that we have. However, because of COVID-19, as I'm sure all of you guys can imagine, that has been put on hold. We will not be recruiting for that team for this semester. But just to quickly introduce you guys, because if you are an analyst, you will be expected to attend. We essentially would go into a lot of kind of Atlanta high schools and just underprivileged high schools and be able to teach them financial literacy. So that's kind of the programs that we have. All right, so quick history. Again, I kind of mentioned earlier, we had a donation starting 2011, and that's kind of when we started. We were started by two alumni, Corey and Sean, and so that has evolved obviously in 2014 when we became a member of the Gazetta Finance Group, and that's the overarching umbrella that we're currently a part of. And in 2015, we launched our fixed income fund with another $100,000 that's also from the same donor. Our club, I think, really, as mentioned here, we provide one of the best extracurricular experiences at Gazetta. I'm not kidding when I say that. And, you know, we really provide unparalleled learning experiences because nowhere on Gazetta will we ever get the opportunity to really think about investing an actual decent sum of money with another group of, really like-minded people. And so that's something that, again, we really much emphasize. All right, so this is how our committee works. So, I'm Ryan, I'm the president, and I'm listed directly underneath the GFG board. You guys might know our other organizations, AIG, right, or GWIF. The presidents of those organizations, myself included, serves on the GFG board. And the president of the GFG board, I guess the chairman, is Jack right now. His name is Jack McGuire, awesome guy, my personal mentor. If you guys have any questions, you guys reach out to him as well. You can see Ben here and Liam are our CIOs, and they're in charge of our fixed income funds and equity funds, respectively. And Esther is our COO, right? And in terms of our fund structure, we start off with the CIO, and the CIO is responsible for pretty much all of the investment decisions, not me. So I always give Ben, and historically presidents have done this, give Ben and Liam with this respective CIOs full authority and autonomy in terms of how they want to run their funds as well as what strategies they want to go about kind of doing this semester. But they obviously have some assistants, and the second level assistant comes directly from vice presidents with, of course, the bulk of the work and the bulk of the kind of information done by our analysts. So that's kind of the structure of our organization, of our fund. And as you guys can probably tell, if you guys heard the introductions of our VPs and analysts just now, our fund is extremely young. Our club is extremely young. Our VPs are usually just first semester sophomores after a year they've been into our organization, right? That's usually when we promote them. And so again, we really provide some excellent experience at a very kind of young age, if you will, partially because, that's just the way that we do things, and that's how fast I think our analysts are able to grow. But also because if you guys are aware of finance recruiting, which we could talk about a bit later, they happen really early. And so Ben, Liam, and I already have internships for next summer, which theoretically would convert to a full-time, and we're just became junior. So that's just an idea of how fast things are. So that's why our club could potentially be so young. All right, just admit a few more people. Okay. All right, with that said, I'm going to pass it off to Liam just to talk a little bit more in depth about the equity fund.
Thank you, Ryan. And thank you all for coming again. Just to reintroduce myself, I'm Liam McGuire. I'm the Chief Investment Officer of GIMG's Equity Fund. We are about $170,000 in assets under management. We invest in US-based equities that we feel are currently undervalued by the market. We benchmark ourselves against the S&P 500, which is basically a index that allows you to see kind of the general valuation of the market. So we try to beat the market essentially. And we do this by prioritizing fundamental research and investment valuation to generate value for the fund. In terms of how we're structured, Ryan went over this a little bit, but our newer members come in as analysts, and you would join one of our 4 groups. You would stay in that group for 3 weeks, and then you would rotate. And each group is led by a VP. And our groups are education, which does more macroeconomics, market research; idea generation, which will do stock pitches every week; qualitative analysis, which will look pretty deeply into a company, look at the catalyst for growth, look at potential risks to the company; and also our quantitative analysis group, which will do a financial model as well as some other valuation strategies to try to get an idea of the fundamental value of a company versus what the market's valuing it at. And if that all makes no sense to you, no worries. That's kind of what we're here to teach you. So in terms of how we work, we do weekly fund meetings every Sunday. Right now they're scheduled for 8 p.m. on Sundays, virtually, obviously. Usually we meet in a conference conference room in the business school, which is really cool. But right now we're going to be over Zoom. And those usually last about an hour. We discuss market conditions. We have people pitch stocks. We discuss the research that each group has done, and we make investment decisions. So we're still going to be doing all of that this semester virtually. We still want to have a really strong semester, and going off of that, we have some goals for the semester. And the primary objective is to find good companies that we feel are lower than their fundamental value due to these current macroeconomic conditions. If you've been following the markets at all, you know that the S&P 500 has hit some new highs and is doing very well. But it's my personal view that there's still a lot of pockets within the market that haven't fully recovered and where value can really be found. And that's going to be my goal going forward for this semester, to try and find some value and get some really undervalued companies. We also reevaluate our current portfolio as needed. We'll have our particularly education group to go through and look at our current investments, see what we want to keep, what still applies to the original investment thesis, and make decisions on if we want to hold or not. In terms of some more specific goals that I have, I would like to see more collaboration between our idea generation group as well as our education group. I want to see the education group talk about some macroeconomic and market conditions, and then the idea generation group create pitches around that. And I also want to see some more analyst participation in the quantitative group. I think that if analysts are able to speak well on the valuation that they're doing, then they become stronger analysts and are really stronger for it. So those are some of the goals that I have, and then we can move on and I can talk a little bit more about our portfolio. Yeah, so those are our holdings. As you can see, we're pretty diverse. We kind of span smaller cap companies, large cap companies, everything in the middle. Also, we obviously have a very large cash position, which is one of my goals to get rid of this semester. I think that you're not going to get much value out of cash. We want to put them in companies, especially companies that we think are going to grow. So I'd like to put money in 4 to 6 investments, ideally, in this next semester, and do our best to get that done. And I also want to continue our education efforts. So Ryan will talk a little bit more about this later, but we really do a strong job of teaching newer analysts what they need to know, particularly in the financial services industry, in finance, way before they ever learn that stuff in the business school. I personally felt super ahead coming into some of my finance classes in the business school, some of my interviews, and all of that was because of GIMG. So we're going to continue doing that, and we're going to continue tracking our current portfolio. And then a little bit more about kind of what we're looking for from analysts, who we want to see, what our goals are. So as an analyst, you do a lot of the stock research, a lot of the valuation, and a lot of the market research. And this is because we want you to learn. This is the best way to learn, and we hope that you're interested in this stuff. It's a really cool thing to do, to have as a freshman. Like, this much individuality in what you can study. You can really pick what you're interested in. You're going to work closely with a VP who's been doing this for a while, so they're going to teach you everything you need to know. Especially at first, you're really not going to know too much, but as long as you're interested in it and willing to put the work in, you'll be absolutely fine. That leads in right into what we're looking for out of analysts. We're going to teach you how to do any financial modeling, any market research, really any concepts that we would not expect you to know. We just want you to be interested. We want you to be willing to do the work that you need to do. It's not anything crazy. We all have lives outside of GIMG, but we just really enjoy this stuff, and we want you to be excited about it as well. So that's really what we're looking for in analysts. And if you can make that shine in your application and in your interviews, then you'll be in a great spot. In terms of what our goals are for analysts, we want you to spend the next semester, the next year learning. We want you to figure out kind of what we do in GIMG, learn the skills, and that'll be a great accomplishment if you can. We also want you to grow your network, both within Goizueta and with our alumni. We have a ton of juniors, seniors who are part of GIMG who've been through everything that you're about to go through the prereqs, through the business school core, through job recruiting. And that can allow you to build a great network of people who have been there before and can help you with everything that you need. And as Ryan will talk about later, GIMG also has a really strong alumni network at tons of different businesses in different industries. We have people at a ton of investment banks, a ton of consulting firms, a ton of investment firms. And having GIMG on your resume is really going to allow you to get in touch with those people, have them help you out. I personally have really reaped the benefits of that network, and I hope that it can be the same for anyone else who joins. And then, we also want you to build your communication and presentation skills. We expect you to be a heavy contributor in our weekly meetings. Something that I've kind of realized about finance is it's a very people-based business. It's not just numbers and technical stuff. Your ability to communicate with others is super important. So we want to help you grow that and really help you develop that skill. And then finally, we want to beat our benchmark, and we want you to help us do that. It's really important to us to have strong performance, and we'll be good to go. And then, that's about all I have. Happy to answer any other questions. Please reach out to me. My email is always open. Happy to have a conversation. And I hope you're interested in the equity fund.
All right. Thanks, Liam. Next, we'll have Ben talk about the fixed income fund.
All right. Yeah. So for those of you who, I guess, missed the beginning, just to reintroduce myself. My name is Ben. I'm currently a junior at Goizueta studying accounting and QSS in the college. And I'm the CIO of the fixed income fund. So I think what's really unique is that many of you guys are coming in and probably don't know what fixed income even means. And to be quite honest, there are very few fixed income funds, like student-run investment funds out in the country at other universities. So I think just having this fund and having this investment arm is really a privilege, and it's given me a lot over the years. So just to kick it off, just to explain what fixed income is for those of you who don't know, fixed income security basically, it's kind of obvious. It's fixed income, so fixed period payments that are paid during the life cycle of the security, and eventually you get paid back whatever money you invested in the beginning, essentially. So it's a loan. So a loan that pays out interest over time, and then you receive the loan back. And examples of these are, treasury bills, so debt that the U.S. government issues, savings bonds, asset-backed securities, which are kind of, bundled mortgage, could be like bundled mortgage loans. So home loans, preferred stocks, and other money market funds. But, corporate bonds, which are loans that companies issue, are the most common. So like your Apple, your Ford, your Kraft Heinz, they will raise debt and end up paying some sort of interest over its life cycle in order to grow their company, in order to finance some of their M&A, like their mergers and acquisitions. So Kraft and Heinz, when they as separate entities, when they wanted to merge and form one company, they had to use a lot of debt. And so what's really unique about fixed income is we don't really get the return that equities gets, at least in our fund, because we don't leverage. but we do have, we're a lot safer of an asset class. So it's really unique because if you think about it, the risk return profile is asymmetric, right? We have very minimal risk, but at the same time, our return is capped as well. So before you buy a bond, you know you're gonna get, let's say, 4% interest or like 4% return every single year. But so your job as an analyst or an investor is to just make sure that, you know, you're gonna get paid back. And as a result of this, you know, equities might have like be a bit more volatile, but fixed income is very technical and a bit more complex because there's just a lot of other components to factor in. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so just to explain like why debt's very important. If you look at the first chart, you know, comparing the US bond market and the stock market, contrary to a lot of people's, you know, perceptions, the US bond market's actually a lot bigger than the US stock market by around like $10 trillion. And so by looking at this, you know, it's really the US bond market that pushes the US economy. You know, when you're looking at unemployment, you're looking at, you know, how a company is growing and how are they, you know, financing a lot of their expansion. It's usually through bonds, and that's like one of the most common ways to do that. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, through like mergers and acquisitions and other bankruptcy deal, fixed income is heavily related. So like over the summer, I think some of you guys saw the Uber Eats and Postmates deal, right? Like Uber bought Postmates. While they didn't actually finance through debt. It's just one of the examples. They did it through stock, but they could have raised a lot of debt to buy Postmates. JCPenney, they went bankrupt this past summer. So like if you bought a lot of bonds in JCPenney that are expiring in 5 years, then you're kind of screwed, but you have to do analysis on that type of stuff. And then some of you guys might be familiar with private equity. Basically, like a financial institution will sometimes go out and buy a company and take them private. So like there was like Dell was taken private, and that was financed through a lot of debt and used to just buy the company because no one has, I guess maybe you do have $50 billion of cash or $100 billion of cash. And, well, like,
how was it?
Okay. It was different than yesterday.
All right, hold on, let's pause there. Someone's mic is unmuted.
Oh yeah, I remember that Ellen ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Nah, she's weird. It's like so awkward to talk.
Okay, I just muted them.
all right, cool.
Hi,
Thanks.
Ben.
Yeah, so like in essence, you know, that's very important because it's one of the ways that companies can finance their activities and how they're able to grow. So it's really important to just have an understanding of the capital structure and the difference between, I guess, debt and equity and where they fall in that line. Yeah. And next slide. Fine. Next one. You're on mute. Hello?
You want me to go on this one?
Wait, go back.
Right,
Just the next one after. Yeah. Okay. So just like a summary of our portfolio, kind of like what Liam did. Our net asset value right now of our portfolio is around $116,000. We're in, you know, treasuries, corporate bonds, asset-backed securities. We'll kind of talk about our distribution in our portfolio a little bit later. We're, instead of being benchmarked against the S&P, we're benchmarked against the AG, which is basically, you know, the US bond index. And we particularly focus on, you know, domestic investment grade credit in the secondary market. So we're instead of, you know, being a primarily, I guess, like a fund that focuses on buying like government debt, we focus on buying like corporate debt. And so I guess the fund structure is very similar to equities. The members, VPs, analysts, you know, we're splitting up into credit teams. And so you'll focus on a specific bond, or you'll still focus on a specific industry, and then go from there. You'll do like a top-down approach, kind of looking at all the different players, the biggest four biggest players in the industry, and then kind of see what type of trends are going on. And then from there, you know, I don't necessarily think you have to say, like, you have to conclude and say, oh, we really want to buy this bond at a certain point in time. So the goal of our reports is really just to develop a unique insight and thesis on the bond. So maybe it's, we want to hold the bond right now, but if at the next earnings call management indicates some other direction, then we'll buy the bond or something like that. And then the other team is the Chief Investment Office team, which I will be leading. It's basically like a newsletter, a research report that you'll usually see from like a Morgan Stanley or a JP Morgan. They'll post, and we'll basically cover our opinions on the markets, our opinions on what the Treasury should be at, like should we buy, sell, hold, that type of thing. It will also highlight a specific trade for the week, just something like a deliverable you would be able to publish and send to your friends. Maybe a future, like a firm you're interviewing with, so really helpful. And so those are produced like bi-weekly. And then some goals for the semester, we want to try to get our trading process in line. Emory Investment Management switched brokers recently, so that's definitely a goal. We're changing our reports this semester, so the top-down approach is actually something new that I'm implementing. So it's a very exciting period. And then we're also trying to reevaluate our fund strategy just because of the whole pandemic. If you've been keeping up, not just in the stock market, there was the big sell-off, there's a big dip in March, but in the fixed income market as well, that happened. And so it's really important for us to just be really up to date with all that. And I guess most importantly for you guys, the ideal candidate that we're looking for obviously has to be hardworking, motivated, and a team player. We get the question a lot about, how much time do we need would you spend on GIMG per week? To be honest, I don't really have a perfect answer for that, because if you're really interested in the subject matter, time flies by and you don't really keep track of time. But the answer I give is probably like 3.5 credit hour class to 4-hour credit hour class. Willing to take initiative when necessary. That's just really important, really helps you go up the ladder in terms of being at GIMG and being promoted. And then being deeply interested in global markets, monetary policy, and fiscal policy. So hopefully you guys have been keeping up with the news for the past few months in terms of the markets, different companies. But if not, I highly recommend you guys to start doing that every single day from now till you apply and through the interview. It will help you immensely. For example, if you're really interested, you would know that jobless claims come out tomorrow on a Thursday morning, or that the Fed chairman's speaking. So like, I'm giving you a hint here. Maybe you should check those out and kind of listen in and see what's going on there. And then just covering a set of companies, just whatever you're interested in. And finally, I just want to emphasize that, you don't have to know what fixed income is coming in. As long as you have unique ideas about the industries, the market, that's what really matters for us. I came in with very minimal knowledge, and most of the VPs and almost all the analysts can tell you that they came in knowing nothing about fixed income. So it's completely doable. If this type of fund really fits your skill set, then go for it. But yeah, just next slide, we can cover a little bit about like how our portfolio is doing and shed some light on that. Just to highlight a little bit. If you look at the our corporate and our weight, the 48%, we're almost 50% in corporate credit. That's kind of just reiterates what I was talking about earlier, how we invest mainly in corporate bonds. And then if you look at the 3-month return, we're lagging behind our benchmark a little bit, but hopefully with some trading readjustments, we can beat our benchmark. But yeah, like if you want to see more information about our performance, email me. Any other advice on the application process, interview, let me know. I'm always happy to help out, and yeah, don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Okay, and we'll have Esther talk about the PR branch briefly.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'll reintroduce myself for people who just joined. My name is Esther. I am a junior at Emory, and I am the head of the public relations branch. So my presentation will be pretty short, especially since one of our teams will not be recruiting this semester. So just to give you a brief background, public relations is a very important part of any big organization. Like Liam said earlier, networking and communications is very essential in the finances world, and maintaining that is sort of our job as part of the PR branch. So normally, as you can see, the PR branch is split into two teams, the marketing team and the community involvement team. For community involvement, usually what we do is we go out and we teach financial literacy. But obviously we won't be doing that this semester just because we don't have any events, and it will sort of be a waste of time if we were to recruit you and then you would just not be doing anything for the rest of the semester. However, our marketing team will be active, and what the marketing team essentially does is we maintain the social media platforms. We are sort of the first person people talk to when they first want to communicate with GIMG. So we also do website management, and that's very important because it's what other people look at when they want to check out GIMG. So all the information there needs to be very updated with all of our events. So a little bit about our semester goals. So, so far GIMG has not had a very big social media presence. We are available on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, but you can probably tell by the activity that we are not very active on there. So my goal this semester as a COO is mostly to increase audience engagement. So we will have a new marketing strategy, and we will be posting more regularly and sort of just taking advantage of the algorithms of those different social media platforms. So you will be learning a lot about how to promote yourself virtually, which I think is very helpful in real life. If, let's say, you were going to the industry and people check out your profile, it's just like a way to raise awareness of who you are, and you'll get to learn that as part of the marketing team. And yeah, so revamping the PR branch's marketing strategy, increase member familiarity with graphic design, social media marketing. Graphic design is a very important part of social media marketing just because of the requirements of graphics to word ratio in advertisements. So you'll also be learning a little bit about that, but it's not difficult and it's something I can teach. So like, don't worry too much about having that prior experience of all of these keywords. And yeah, so as part of the marketing, you will be able to get to talk to the investment branches. They're kind of two interconnected branches. So don't think like, oh, I'll never know anybody else in the investment branch. Like, we are a very collaborative group, and it's all one big community. So like, don't worry too much about not getting to know about people in the investment branch. Cool. Okay, so finally, my ideal candidate is just these things. So the marketing branch, as did I mention it before? Okay, cool. Never mind. The marketing branch is a very small branch. So just like the investment branch, what I'm personally looking for is somebody who's very interested and passionate in marketing. And these are some of the requirements you can see here. You have not requirements, but it will be ideal if you're familiar with graphic design and social media marketing. If you aren't, which is cool because I can teach that, but if you aren't, you need to show a willingness to learn, because obviously everybody's time is limited, and if you are not very motivated about learning about all of these social media marketing strategies or graphic design, then obviously I will not have a reason to recruit you. But team player, motivated, just an interest in learning is what I'm really looking for. You also have to be responsive and easily contacted, and this is just due to the nature of our work. So for instance, if an event was to suddenly came up and we had to promote it immediately, you need to be there for me to contact. If you suddenly disappear into the void and I can't contact you, then that's not quite ideal for me, because then we would just really have to rush things, and it's not good for GIMG as an organization. So that's sort of the end of my presentation, and yeah, I'll hand it back to Ryan.
Awesome, thanks, Esther. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening kind of beyond GIMG for analysts. So the number one obvious thing that I think about is, of course, our alumni base, right? And this is not a secret that our alumni are probably one of them, like, contain some of the most successful people that have ever entered the business school. We have alumni going to all these firms. Even beyond these financial institutions, we have alumni at Google, we have alumni at Facebook, not a lot, but some are there. We have alumni in a lot of consulting firms, alumni in mostly banking, and as you can imagine, for a finance club like us, this is where most of our analysts go. In fact, both Liam and as well as Ben are going to place on this list, right? And so again, this is a really big part of our organization in terms of being able to connect with our alumni and to be able to have and maintain that connection as we move forward. And that's something that is a really key resource when it comes to analysts, especially when it comes to recruiting and finance. That's something that's very important. Of course, we'll take questions about this later. But the main thing that I'm sure you guys are thinking about right now is especially what recruiting looks like for our fund, or excuse me, not our fund, our club as a whole. So we have two different recruiting processes, one for each branch. Our recruiting for the investment branch, and we've kind of alluded to this earlier if you've been to our club fair, has changed this semester. This semester, there's two parts. First is a written application. Now, this is something that we can't stress enough. No background in finance is necessary at all. If you guys have read my letter that I put up on our website, when I joined GIMG, I had no experience in finance whatsoever. In fact, my first pitch to the fund was so bad. It was a notoriously bad pitch. To this day, Jack, which was my VP then, still laughs at me about it. But what I'm trying to say is, what we really look for is passion, your willingness to learn, right? And those elements as part of your individual as a student, right, is more important to us than whether or not you've had an education or background. The application has three components. It's why GIMG, your stock pitch, as well as your industry pitch. And industry is very broadly defined. We've had people pitch like consumer discretionary to healthcare to esports, right? And so that's kind of the wide range. And we want it to be vague for a reason because we want you to pitch whatever you think is a good industry. Really, it gives us an opportunity in how do you think, right? And we really want to also emphasize that pitch us what you know. Don't go out of your way and learn all the hard technical stuff because from our perspective, whatever you put on your application and whatever you say is fair game for us to ask about, right? So if you don't put that information on there, right, we want to assume you know about it, right? But if you want to go out and try to learn how to build DCF the next week and then try to pitch at an interview, we're going to ask about that, right? So make sure, stick to what you know, right? And, know that there's no correct pitch. A lot of people are trying to find something that's really, oh, like, am I doing this correctly? That's not a really good way of thinking about it because especially at our level, you could pitch anything, right? And that would honestly work, right? It's really about the thought process and what goes on behind that. And this is something that Ben and Liam both really emphasize, which is what the question you're really trying to answer is, what is something that I'm seeing right now in terms of opportunity in this stock that the market is not capturing? Like, where is the value in this stock? Or like, what real kind of opportunity can we capitalize on here that perhaps everyone else is missing on? So that's something that we really want to have you guys emphasize. This is also something we really want to kind of put a lot of emphasis on, which is we really want you to know that help will always be available to you. Please reach out to either me, Liam, or Ben for any questions about your application whatsoever. To the point you could even show us your application beforehand. This is something that we've done for our past analysts, and this is something that we don't discourage. In fact, we encourage it. There's no conflict of interest, and it's also a good opportunity for us to be able to see how you think, how you respond to our feedback, and stuff like that. So please, we highly encourage you to reach out with your application even before you submit it so that we can take a look. All right. The second part of our process is upon, if you're successful for the written application, we'll invite you to 2 interviews. These interviews are side by side, which means it's not one after the other. They're weighted equally as well. The first interview is a general interview. This includes kind of behavioral questions. So we learn a bit about your experience, about your motivations, what you'll kind of be like if you want to enter our organization in terms of a cultural fit. And then we'll follow up with a bit more what I call intellectual technicals. So these technicals aren't hard technicals. They're not like, all right, so like, tell me, like what are the leverage ratios, like walk me through like the financial thing. Like that's not our technicals. We want to think about building off of what you already know, right? Like we want to build off of your knowledge of perhaps a certain financial concept that we can think you could take a little further on, right? And it really involves kind of problem solving and your ability to think through questions. So that's a general interview. The second interview is a stock pitch, right? And it's a 3 to 5 slide deck pitch. Really, it should not go past 5 slide decks. In fact, if you go past 5 slides, we will cut the rest of your presentation out. It's very simple. You're going to present your thesis, you'll present your risk and catalyst for your stock, right? And it's pretty straightforward. It's just a good opportunity for us to see kind of the work that you put into developing said pitch, as well as the thought process that it goes behind. Because in the past, what we realized was when we try to do everything in just one interview, we'd either get too stuck up on the intellectual technicals, the behaviorals, that we didn't really get a chance to ask your stock or industry pitch. And so it's an opportunity for you to pitch your stock. You can pitch the stock that you pitch in your application, or if you're feeling really ballsy, you can pitch something that is not even mentioned in your application. You can pitch something totally new. And essentially, once you pitch that, we will just ask questions to follow up. More details and instruction will follow up if you get past the written application process. But rest assured, that will happen. And this is just a really brief overview in terms of what our recruiting for our investment branch looks like. Now, to follow that, we also have recruiting for our PR branch, right? Which is very similar, right? You have an online application. You can choose to attach a portfolio for reference if you'd like. And then after that, you go into the interview, mostly behavioral, thinking about, what's your attitude, what's your experience, what if you're a good fit for our team. And then finally, this is something that's a bit more unique to the PR branch. You're going to be asked to do a deliverable. Essentially, you'll be given a task like, all right, we want you to design this flyer or this marketing program. It's going to be due at this time. Here are all the event details. Like, go for it, right? And then, that information and instruction will be emailed to you directly upon successful completion of the interview. But that's essentially what it's going to look like for our PR branch. All right. So finally, this is our timeline, right? We are right here with our info sessions, right? Our applications close a week from now, right, on September 4th at 11:59 p.m. I'm going to allow a 5-minute window just so that, I know there's some technical issues, but really it's going to be a hard cutoff, right, at 12 midnight, essentially. And then our interviews will conduct the following week. We'll let you know if you perform successfully in an application probably within the next day or so, because we need to get, going with interviews. And literally by the following Sunday, September 13th, which I hope I got that right. By the following Sunday is our first fund meeting, right? So that's just gonna kind of let you know that like we work through things pretty quickly. So, rest assured, like you'll hear back from us soon. Applications are open on our website, and I want to take this opportunity to also showcase our website a little bit. Let me share my screen. Website. All right, this is what our website looks like right now. Can everyone see this? All right, awesome. Okay, so our website right now, if you just go to our apply section, right, you could see, clicking to apply, and then you can see our application home, right? It's due September 4th, and you can apply to either our investment branch or public relations branch. No, you cannot apply to both. So we will only take you for one. And once you're in one, you can't switch between, right? Obviously, you can help each other, right? And the people in our PR branch, if they're interested in finance, can learn about it. But we're making it really kind of clear that you cannot go into the PR branch and then eventually transfer to the investment branch or vice versa. Like that's something that we're not allowing. And yeah, and just for you guys to have an idea, if you click on our events on our website, we also have our info sessions over here, application deadline, or GBM. That's stuff we have planned right now. The last thing that I want to do before we conclude kind of the session that we're talking right now is the GTAP. So GTAP is our education program for our analysts. And in the past, this has always been internal. This year is the first year we're doing it, so please bear with us, but it's going to be a public event. It's called the GIMG Technical Academy Program. Some people wanted to call it GTA. You can call it if you want to, but for compliance purposes, let's stick to GTAP. Essentially, what it is again, our education process. It's an 8-week-long program. The person who's leading it is Kevin. Kevin is one of the smartest people I know at the business school. He's very experienced. He's going to Lazard, great bank. And this is the curriculum and sort of what it's going to look like, right? And so what I'm saying is, let's say you apply, right, and unfortunately you don't make it. That's okay, because if you still want to learn about finance, please come out to this event. More information will follow. Our setups are not even open yet, but that's okay. This is just a great opportunity for you to learn. And our analysts, which we admit, our new analysts, which we admit this semester, will also be a part of this process as well. So again, we highly encourage that and for you to come out if you could. And more information and details will follow. All right. And just to conclude, and just a quick summary, right? You really, this is just the benefits of GIMG, right? Like you besides the opportunity to invest a significant portion of invested capital beyond any, in another organization on campus, you really get access to huge technical benefits, a great community to learn and talk about stocks and finance. Obviously, you'll get the exposure you really want to. You'll gain proficiency with Excel. Like I can pretty much use Excel without a mouse now at this point. This is something that I developed in the past year, right? But like this is something that again you'll pick up. And just a really good group of people that you can talk and enjoy with. We're all friends outside of GIMG. I'm not to say that we're the best of friends, right? But like occasionally Ben, Jack, and I like play mahjong on the weekends. I play some poker with a couple people. We would get like after the meeting, this is gonna make me a little sad because we're not on campus, but after meetings we would go to the duck together and get food, like stuff like that, right? So this is again a really excellent community, and even beyond, like once you graduate, right, or for us who are about to graduate, we know that this is what GIMG is like. So if anything, our alumni are a group of especially motivated people who are especially willing to give back to our community, and that's something that we really prioritize and value. All right, thank you guys so much for bearing with us. I know it's been a little longer. It's been about 45 minutes, but right now we just want to take some questions. and hopefully the raise hand feature works. I'm not sure if it does. If it doesn't, feel free to just unmute your mic or ask a question in the chat, and then we can just get to it as soon as possible. All right, it's always little, yeah. All right, so I got a question privately. How competitive it is to join this club? I won't lie, and I won't like sugarcoat it. Our club is decently competitive, but I want to really emphasize why that is the case, right? And so think about it this way. This analogy a lot of you guys probably heard before. It's when I was a VP and I was managing a team of 4 or 5 analysts, right? Like I was able to really go in depth about them. In fact, we spent to brief them on a new quantitative model that we were doing. We spent like 6 hours on Sunday going over the model, right? And I was able to answer each of their specific questions and each of their 4 very specific kind of concerns and there's confusions. I can address that. Now imagine if I did that with 40 people, right? Like there's obviously a trade-off there, right? And so in terms of the size of our fund and the size of our group, this is a good size in our opinion that we want to keep it that way, which is one of the reasons why it's potentially more competitive. That being said, we try to make it as transparent as possible, and we want to give everyone opportunities in the moving forward. So for example, GTAB is an excellent example. We have a banking academy that we do in conjunction with GFG, which again, information will come out soon. We have a bunch of speaker series and events. So really, you can have the finance education at Emory if you really try. But yeah, that's the direct answer to that question. It is pretty competitive.
Sebastian, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I have a question regarding like the stock pitch. Can you do a bond pitch, or does it have to be a stock pitch when you're for the second interview?
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, feel free to do a bond pitch. We've only had a couple in the past, so I'm like, if you want to do one, like, I mean, like, try your best. But like, I'm very excited to see what you have planned if you do a bond pitch. Maybe like maybe you could like write a bond pitch, but also have like a stock pitch in your back pocket if we ask you, but like if you just want to do a bond pitch, like feel free to do so. Take on that challenge.
We usually don't want to promote people to do bond pitches just because they're just slightly harder. However, right, like again, we won't be against that, right?
Thank you, appreciate it.
And to that end, we've had people pitch shorts, and shorts are again a little bit more complex to pitch, but that's something that we've also potentially will allow. Obviously, it's up to Liam, but in the past we've had people done that.
Could I email you guys and just get approval before I present?
100%. Again, this applies to everyone. We can review your application beforehand. Like that's something that we highly encourage you guys to do, to reach out. So yeah. Let's see. Can I join this club even if I'm not in the B school now? Yes, absolutely you can. In fact, you kind of have to, right? Like none of you guys will be in the B school until at least 2 years from now if you're a freshman, which means that like we're not gonna wait until then. So please apply, right? Like this is an organization designed for mostly underclassmen, and unless you're a scholar, you're not in the B school yet. And so absolutely you can apply.
And can I add one thing on to that?
Absolutely.
If you even like, let's say you're a freshman coming in, and I did have this thought process when I was in your shoes, but like if you feel like you don't know enough and that like you need to take a semester to learn and like I guess get to a level where you're gonna know enough, number one, it's very hard to have the motivation to like self-study like that and have the direction. And number two, we do like to recruit people as early as possible, meaning like if you're a first semester freshman, like that's who we're really aiming for. And so like, because at the end of the day, you might be the one filling in for me 2 years down the line or like a year down the line, right? So as like, if we can spend more time with you, like helping you and teaching you and, I guess listening to your opinions on the markets, then that's better than spending one less semester. So don't wait, even if you feel a little intimidated by the process, just apply.
Absolutely. And actually someone else asked me, do you take as many sophomores in your club, or are you mainly looking for freshman applicants? And I'm going to build off Ben's point a little bit. Here's our rationale with sophomore applicants, right? Think about it this way. By the time that you're a sophomore and you've been in our organization for 2 semesters, you're pretty much already a VP, right? If not, you're kind of at that level. And so for sophomores, right, we obviously we don't expect you to, again, have a background in finance, right? But will hold you to a little bit of a higher standard, because essentially you're taking up a spot that one of these, like, other people who, like, one of the people who've been in our organization for 2 semesters are taking up, right? And so that's, I think, something that's more important is that because you're a sophomore entering our organization, we do expect a little more. But to that end, absolutely, we've taken sophomores for, right? And if you are a sophomore, apply now, because it's much easier to get in as a first semester, as a fall semester sophomore than it is as a spring semester sophomore. And I can be very direct with that. And so to that end, like, we don't think about it in terms of, oh, you're a sophomore, so like we're gonna like put you in a quota. But if you are a sophomore, we're gonna hold you to a higher standard than freshmen. I think that's to be expected. All right. So Chris, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the equities one. I remember, I think Liam was saying that there's like stock pitches that you guys do like every week, but I saw in like your portfolio, you guys only have maybe like 9 or so main stocks you guys have. So I'm curious, are these stock picks or stock pitches that you guys do like every week, is it just for like knowledge and education base and getting better at it rather than like actually using those? Or I was just curious about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. All of our stock pitches are with the goal of coming up with an investment. We are just very critical about what we do, because like I mentioned, so just the basic process for an investment to be made, we'll do, say, 4 or 5 stock pitches a week, pick one out of those pitches, and that'll move on to our qualitative analysis group. If we still like it, we'll move it on to our quantitative analysis group, and then we'll make a decision after a lot of discussion, maybe a vote, or I can kind of make that decision on if we want to make an investment. And just by nature of that pretty rigorous process, we end up not making too many investments. So I want to be a little bit more aggressive about it, like I mentioned this year, but we're not going to invest in anything that we don't like. So long story short, we do look at all of our pitches with the goal of investing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Liam, perhaps you can take this as well. Someone asked, do metals count as an industry? And I think this is a good chance of whether or not you want to take short pitches as well.
Wait, sorry, what? Can you repeat
The question
that?
is, do metals count as an industry? And I wanted you to also answer whether or not you would take short pitches.
Yeah. I mean, like Ryan said, like you can be pretty broad with what industry you pick. Like be very creative. It doesn't have to just be the industries like defined by the S&P or anything like that. In terms of shorts, I mean, so our fund does not do shorts. We don't do options. We are a long only equity fund. So I would say don't do a short just to have the gimmick. Don't do it just to seem different. Like I would much rather see a very strong long pitch than an okay short one. That being said, if you've had a burning idea in your mind for the past 6 months about like, oh, I need to short this stock, I think this company is going down, and you can kind of explain short selling, explain exactly why this company isn't going to do well, go for it. Like I love to see the creativity. That's the type of people I'm looking for. But please don't feel like you need to do anything like that to stand out.
And just as a general rule, don't do anything for the sake of doing it. Like don't include ratios you don't know. Don't include information that you confuses yourself, because I guarantee you'll ask you that in an interview. So let's just play it safe. All right. Let's see who else. So let me put this up. Rabia, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, you said that right. I just had a question about, so you said that we could like contact you guys in advance to like look at our applications. So do you want us to like email the email that is on the website, or like you guys individually for?
Up to you. I mean, you could, all of our own emails are also on the website. And so you feel free to reach out to that directly, or the GIMG exec email, that works too. Yeah,
Okay.
up to you.
Okay, and is it only for like investment applications or also for social or
No, not at all.
PR?
For PR, you can reach out to Ashley directly as well, or you can just shoot us the email in general. Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
I'll respond faster if you email me directly.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Brandon?
Hi. So if we had previously written like an article, because I had done something in like end of senior year for high school and actually deployed my own money and it played out, can I use that article with like if the past information is like accurate and it's actually something I've done? So can I use it as like a stock pitch?
Is it all right if I answer that just because of the stock?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So what I would say is, if it's like a pure stock pitch, I would say, like, maybe don't like attach a link to the article, but you can recycle that if you think it's one of your stronger works. If it's more like an article about the markets or something like that, I would say there's also a paragraph where you write why you're interested in GIMG, and you can totally attach that article to that or link it, because like I would love to read it. But if it is a stock pitch, then definitely use that material in the pitch that you use for us if you think it's still relevant.
And I think just to emphasize that, I want to make sure. I think the best thing is to make sure it's still relevant, right? So it's probably been a while, but I'm not so sure. Like if your thesis is still valid and your risk and catalysts are still good, then by all means, right?
So it had past information though, but the past information, the numbers were all like accurate. It was real information. And then I recently sold it. So
yeah, okay. So
I can
would
include
say,
like the recent history of me selling at Y and change that.
yeah, I would say if you use it for your pitch, then update it. Like update it for why would be a good investment right now. If you want to do a new pitch, then and just include that in your why GIMG thing, just because you think it would like makes you a stronger candidate or shows your interest, then you can just leave it like it was and we can just read it like it was.
Yeah. Awesome. Does anyone have any more questions? Oh, Ane, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I know you guys like briefly went over the online or like the written application process, but when we're actually filling it out, will there be a little more instructions on the 3 little parts, or is it pretty much just like free mind, you could do whatever you want with it?
Yeah, you know what? Why don't I just show that? So let me share my screen real quick. All right. So let's do this. So if you go on investment branch, right, you can see this is the application right here, right? So we ask you for your resume, right? You can choose, right, which one you want to apply. Oh, and we got this question in the past. You can choose to only apply to one. I'm pretty sure Liam only clicked equity fund analyst. However, at the end of the day, it's still up to us whether or not to place you or which area to place you. You can check which class you're involved, ID, and then what's your motivation, right? Like why GIMG, and here's your word limit, right? And that's just kind of the case here. And I've mentioned here, industry can be as broad as consumer discretion or esports. Like that's something that's very fine, right? And, this is like just the instruction we have. So again, we want to give you as much room as possible for you to be creative and to give us like a unique perspectives. But like there's going to be some restrictions. For example, I'm not going to read a 2,000 word stock pitch. Okay. So yeah, that makes sense.
All right, thanks. Yeah.
All right. Aman.
Hi. What are your quotas for the equity team and the fixed income team?
As in how many we're taking?
Yeah,
do you guys want to take
for
that?
each.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a hard number. Like I want as many good people as we can take, especially because it's first semester. So if we take more than we usually do, then we can take a few less second semester. But I think on average, it's usually about 4.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
For fixed income, it's excuse me, it's about the same. I mean, like we all have a certain bar, and I don't think it changes from semester to semester. So like theoretically, if like 10 of you guys meet that bar, and there's 10 new analysts for the equity for the fixed income team, then like I'll take 10 new kids. But like I think like it just hasn't happened in the past. So like I don't like to be quite honest, I don't see fixed income to have a quota. We're always eager to find new fixed income kids. But one thing I'll say for fixed income is like while you can apply to both funds, one question I guarantee you we will ask you is, do you prefer fixed income or equities? And so we don't see one fund as inferior to the other, and we hope that you can come in with a very educated answer based on today's PowerPoint and us like explaining what we do and our strategy to come up with an answer for why you want to be in one fund or the other. The answer of, hey, I want to be in equities because I already know a lot about equities, or hey, I want to be in fixed income because I know a lot about equities, but I don't know a lot about fixed income and I want to learn more. Those answers don't like we don't think those answers are good enough because we don't like anyone can say that. Like I think a lot of you guys fit in those shoes. So just to preface that, that's something we do ask. So just come prepared for that.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
Yep.
Someone asked, do we also recruit in the spring semester? Yeah, we recruit in the spring semester. That's true. But think about it, like if you want to apply it now, like if you want to, like just applying now, I think would definitely help. Because in the spring semester, a lot of the applications that we're seeing are repeats, so we kind of know already like who's coming. And also like, not to mention that like people who let's say didn't get in this time would like maybe spend a lot of time on their own, just like learning and stuff. And so I think people are generally more prepared when it comes to the spring semester. Not necessarily a good or bad thing, but I think in terms of numbers and if you want to think about it as a competition, I'd say it's generally more competitive in the spring. So if you are thinking about applying, shoot your application like now. I don't think there's any downside to doing that, with the exception maybe if that might impact your schoolwork. But I doubt it. So. All right. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no more questions, we'll stay behind and we can talk to some of you guys still. Like if you guys are still staying behind. Otherwise, you guys are all free to go. In fact, you guys are free to go since we finished the presentation. So yeah, we'll stay behind and take some more questions if necessary. And you know, hopefully we see all of you guys in terms of application.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Nice meeting you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.